What's going on, CDL fans? We're back with our pick'ems for the major 2 qualifiers week 1. So I'm only going to do week 1 qualifiers, obviously, because I don't want to do the other ones in advance. I want to see how the teams perform in week 1. But finally, the pick'ems website is back and is updated. Now they added some other things. One thing I think is the coolest thing is you can now click this little button here above each match, and you can see, I think it only shows the recent 5 matches between the teams if they have up to 5 matches. You can now see the recent 5 matches that they played against each other, when they played, obviously what happened, and then the current records of the teams. So it gives you a little bit more information, and it also shows you what other people are predicting. So you can see here, most people are predicting Ultra to beat London in this series. They also added, if I just move my camera, there is this little thing up here where you can use these to double your points. Now, when I was on the website, earlier yesterday, there was little buttons above each series, like right next to where the little stats symbol button is, that was showing, you click this to double your points. It's not there, not here today. I don't really know why, but whatever, I guess. We're just gonna go through our pick'ems. So kicking it off with London versus Ultra, I'm in the majority here. I'm with this 89% of people that thinks that Toronto's gonna win. Now Paul X is out and Scraps is in for this London team. Maybe that helps them, maybe that hurts them. Either way, I think Ultra is one of the best teams in the game. I'll give London a map, maybe that little Honeymoon map, but it's gonna be interesting to see how this goes. Now for the second match on Friday, we have Minnesota versus Boston. Let's pull this on up. Most people are going for Minnesota. You have about 33% going for Boston. So about a third of people are thinking Boston can take this. Obviously, Minnesota and Boston both had very underwhelming majors. Obviously, Boston's was worse than Minnesota, but a lot of people, including myself, thought Minnesota was a top 3-ish team heading into the major. They didn't really perform too well. I do think that they end up taking this. I think this could be a close one, honestly. I'm going to go 3-1, maybe even 3-2. Not exactly. I'm going to go 3-1. That was my initial instinct, but I do think this could be close. There's obviously that chance Boston could win. I don't think they're 100% out of this series, but I do think Minnesota is a strong team. And our last match on Friday the 13th is Seattle versus Vegas. Most people are going Seattle. Actually, 24% with Vegas, I think, is a bit surprising, mainly because, you can see Seattle, obviously, every time they've played each other, these all date back to Vanguard and beyond. But a lot of times they win. Both teams are sitting close to that 500 mark. Vegas obviously doing really good. I think Seattle takes this for sure. I'm going to go 3-1 on this series as well. So all 3-1s here for Friday. Now for Saturday, LAG versus Florida. Both teams kind of underwhelming. You have the thought process between LAG and also with OpTic when we get to them. There's pretty much 2 options when you have a new roster. You're either going to have that honeymoon phase where you play really well, or it's just not going to click and your team's going to do pretty poor. So you have this new LAG roster. We literally got rid of everybody except for Arcides and brought in academy players. And then you have the Florida Uniers team. Kind of tough, right? Let's see what people are going with. It's literally 50-50 right now. Have they played it all this year? It doesn't show them having played it all this year. I'm gonna go, I think I'm gonna, dude, I don't know. I think the LAG team could, I'm gonna go LAG. Let's make it fun. We're gonna go LAG 3-2. I think this is a really close series, but I'm gonna give LAG the slight edge. Maybe that honeymoon phase helps them out. London versus Minnesota, 2 teams that play on Friday are also playing on Saturday. I'm gonna go Minnesota. I'm going to go Minnesota 3. I'm going to say 3-1 for this as well. I just don't think London really has I don't know. They're too inconsistent. They're like Asim, Nasty. They're both super inconsistent players. And then you're bringing in Scraps, who hasn't been in the league in, a year or so. And then you obviously have Zero, who I think is actually pretty solid. But I'm going to go Minnesota. Now we have one of our better series of the weekend. We have Seattle Surge versus Atlanta FaZe. You can see here, most people are going the side of FaZe instead of Surge. I don't know. You can see their records. They're both, 6 wins, and one has 5 and one has 4 losses. I do think FaZe are really good. I personally really like Seattle. I think they're a very, they're a team that's going to, I think, be around that top 3 most of the year. Do we think FaZe beats Seattle? I don't know. I'm kind of feeling a Seattle win here. I don't know why, but something's telling me Seattle's going to win this. So I'm going to go 3-2. And now we have the reigning Major 1 champs versus the reigning Call of Duty champs from last year. So NYSL versus LA Thieves. You can see pretty close in terms of what people think out of them. Obviously, NYSL looked amazing at the major, and LA Thieves have so far looked lackluster, not what you expect out of the championship team, but overall, they've looked okay, and you know what they can do. I'm gonna go LA Thieves on this series. I think that NYSL is an amazing team, and they without a doubt can win this series. But I think with this long break we had from Major 1 until now, I mean, it was like 2 or 3 weeks, you know, they're not riding that high and that adrenaline that they were at the major. Because when you're at the major, it's a couple days, you're just putting series together back to back to back. You have a lot of adrenaline and momentum, but everything obviously has been killed off because of like the 3-week break that we just had. So I don't know, I kind of think that NYSL is going to come a bit back down to earth. I really don't think the levels of performance they had at Major 1 is something they're going to have the entire year. I think they're capable of it, but I just don't know if I see this team having that level of performance throughout the entire season. So I think they come back down to earth a little bit, like I just said, and I'm going to go LA Thieves in game 5. Move my camera to the other side. So now we have Florida versus Toronto. Most people are going to go Toronto. I also agree. I think this is a Toronto. I'm going to go 3-0. I got to throw 3-0 in here somewhere. I think this is probably one of the perfect series for us to see a 3-0. Either this one or maybe like when they play London or when Rocker play London, I think could be our 3-0 potential maps. Boston versus OpTic. Obviously a big one. I mean, of course, OpTic's going to have a majority of the votes because, you know, a green wall in the OpTic fandom is, of course, going to vote for them. You got two teams both playing pretty poor, but you do have Who coming on into OpTic. You know, do they have the honeymoon phase similarly to maybe what LAG is going to hopefully have, like I predicted in the other series? Or does it not really click? It's going to be tough, right? Because the way I see OpTic now is obviously Dashi was having a very underwhelming season, but Dashi had like a 1.04 KD, I think, so far this year. Hook is coming in with like a 0.9, 0.91 KD, somewhere in that range. So right away, you're kind of dropping off a little bit of your slaying ability, not to mention Illy already doesn't slay out too much. So OpTic's really going to get less kills, and Boston with Vivid and Nero are a fast-paced team. You know, Awakening is a very good slayer as well. This is a team that I think has a lot of slaying capabilities compared to an OpTic team who I feel like doesn't have as much slaying capabilities, especially now that they got rid of Dashi. You know, I do believe in this OpTic team, but I just feel like thinking about it from the perspective of how bad OpTic's slaying is going to be, I don't know if they've had enough time to gel as a team. I mean, they just officially signed Hook this week, and the matches start at the end of this week in a couple days. I'm going to go Boston. I don't know. I'm thinking Boston, maybe 3-2. You know, OpTic could definitely win this, but I don't know. The slaying thing really worries me for OpTic. We're definitely going to have to see how much Hook brings in. With Scump moving to the flex, I do think he's going to perform well, but that takes him off of the sub. He's probably going to be running more of a second AR, and he's been frying this year on the SMG, so I don't know. I think it's going to be tough, especially going up against a really fast-paced, you know, slaying heavy duo in Vivid and Nero. Then we have the Battle of LA. We have the Thieves versus the Gorillas. I'm definitely going Thieves here. I'm definitely thinking Thieves. I'm going to go 3-0, I think, on this one. I don't know. You know, this is one of those series where same thing with OpTic. Does Gorillas have the honeymoon phase? I think I think like I have them beating Florida, but Florida, comparing them to LA Thieves isn't exactly a fair comparison, especially just looking at the teams. You know, I'm gonna go LA Thieves 3-0. I think that's a safe bet. And yeah, let me lock in my predictions here. Boom, they have been saved, and they will fully lock in on the 13th. But this is what we are looking at prediction wise for myself, so you can kind of get a little quick look there. I think this looks pretty reasonable. I like the updates they made to the PICKEMS website. Let me know down below, you know, anything you agree or disagree with, your big takeaways heading into this week 1 of Major 2 qualifiers. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like, sub to the channel for some more CDL content, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next one.